YouTube! Just a little heads up, I am still sick. So if I have to pause a lot, or mute rather, if I have to mute a lot, or you see a lot of cut out sections of the video, you know what's going on. I'm coughing my brains out. Everything's good though. But today, we're doing one for my boy Wombo Combo. He resides in Canada, so I figured, let's do our first out of US tornado. We're going to Canada, and this is called the Elie tornado. Okay, this happened in Elie. Now, the only reason I know how to pronounce that is because I looked at the comments. I'm not gonna lie, and a lot of people getting upset. This dude's calling it Elie. So I got a little bit of a funny one for you. I too am gonna call this Elie, just because I know it's gonna make you all mad. We're going to Elie. But I did want to say it one time, that way you guys knew that I did know how to say it correctly. But anyways, let's hop straight into our first Canadian tornado.
It's a scorching summer day in the small town of Elie, Manitoba in Canada, and a tornado has just descended from the sky to the northwest of town. The twister slowly meanders towards town at a snail's pace. Though appearing as a rather narrow and unimpressive tornado, at its core it's capable of producing catastrophic damage. As the tornado approaches the outskirts of town, it produces one of the most unique tornado tracks of all time, changing directions numerous times and doing a handful of loops. As the tornado begins its rope-out stage, it enters the southwest edge of town with incredibly violent force and produces
That's a good-looking tornado.
To four separate
Photogenic.
houses. Damage afterwards reveals a slab foundation at one of the house locations, indicating that this tornado may have been at F5 intensity. Damage analysts are skeptical, however, though, because of this tornado's extremely slow forward speed, it may have led to increased damage at this area. The surveyors then receive a video of the tornado taken by a local that changes everything.
What is that? I think it just picked up part of that building. That's crazy.
It's June 22nd, 2007, in the small town of Elie, Manitoba. Elie is an extremely small town with less than 1,000 residents located about 20 miles west of Winnipeg. The weather on June 22nd is just about as unbearable as it gets. Temperatures have rose well into the 90s with dew points into the 70s. Upwards in the atmosphere, a moderately strong jet stream and low pressure system approach the area from Saskatchewan throughout the day.
I just want to say that I thought it was super cold in Canada all the time. Is that what you all say up there? I thought it was cold in Canada all the time, A
warm front was situated just north of town.
I'm sorry. That was my bad. Look, you can give me a little bit of a hard time with my hillbilly stuff, okay? I'll let it pass. As long as you guys give me the A pass.
Allowing for the incredibly uncomfortable air to filter in. The accompanying cold front was located just to the west of town by Lake Manitoba and extending into Saskatchewan. To make the situation even more interesting, there's a lake breeze boundary that is present south of Lake Manitoba. There is also strong wind shear in place which causes thunderstorms to spin, meaning that pretty much all the elements are in place for a severe weather event. There's one possible hindering factor though in the form of a cap that is in place. A cap is a level of dry air a few thousand feet up in the atmosphere that can inhibit thunderstorms from forming altogether. However, if there's enough lift or say an extra boundary or something located nearby, it could act as a focal point for storms to form later. The aforementioned lake breeze boundary that was located just to the west of Elie would do exactly that, and thunderstorms would begin forming on it in the mid to late afternoon. Storms began to form in the region just after 5 o'clock local time along the cold front with help from the lake breeze. At 5:40 p.m., two separate supercells developed to the northwest of Elie and moved southeast towards town.
There it is, Elie. Look, I know it's tearing your guys' soul up, and just so you know, Elie.
Third supercell formed about 40 minutes later to the southwest of the other two storms. All the storms were now moving southeast at the incredibly slow speed of
I lost
10
audio
miles
for a
per
second.
hour. The three separate supercells would soon thereafter begin to interact with each other and merge, which would begin and aid in tornado genesis. At 6:25 p.m., the tornado first touched down just to the north of the Trans-Canada Highway.
Show me the nader.
The tornado initially moved southeast, but soon thereafter began its wildly erratic track and passed over the highway. As the tornado passed over the highway, it would pick up and toss a semi-truck and tractor-trailer, leaving the driver shaken but unharmed. After initially moving southeast, the tornado turned sharply to the east, then south, and then the east again, all within the span of 1 mile. The tornado then made another sharp turn to the south, impacting the town's flour mill, and then did a very slow 360-degree loop back over the mill.
Did it just like, it hit that flour mill, then went back and hit it again? Does that happen a lot? Do they do like little 360s like that? It's a wild little pattern. Evil.
While impacting the flour mill, the tornado
here it
had
is.
F2 strength and caused upwards of $1 million in damages.
Dang, dude.
At the mill, multiple semi-trucks were overturned and the mill's walls were blown inwards. Also at this point,
there it is, boys. Very photogenic tornado. Now we just need it in the middle of a field where it's not bothering anyone.
tornado began to expand its width slightly.
Oh
to
man,
55
he's driving
yards.
right at it.
After doing its loop, the tornado continued moving south, parallel to Jansen Road. Also at this time, the tornado weakened slightly to F0 intensity, but also expanded its width to 155 yards. After
So it's not
reaching
a
the
very
intersection
wide
of
tornado at
Jansen
all.
Road and Road 61 North, the tornado made another abrupt turn to the east and headed directly towards the southwest edge of Elie. Unfortunately, the tornado would not deviate its track again before hitting the southwest edge of town with ferocious intensity. While approaching town, the tornado rapidly strengthened and was now at F4 intensity or higher. The tornado then slowly impacted
That's a wild-looking
the foremost
tornado,
southwest
man.
houses in the town of Elie, before beginning to do another 360-degree loop after passing over. As the tornado was completing its loop, it passed over the same impacted houses again, inflicting a second potent hit to the same area. The tornado
What is this tornado on? Look at the path it took. And then circled back around for seconds. This is the second time that tornado's done like a 360.
a second potent hit to the same area. The tornado did tremendous damage to these 4 homes, including one which was described as well built and bolted to the foundation.
Well, it flung that car, didn't it? Debarked the trees? Well, not completely, but what it didn't debark, it just ripped in half, so it's pretty stout.
The house was lifted completely off of the foundation, thrown into the air, and then broke apart. The tornado was even strong enough to rip some... The house was lifted completely off of the foundation, thrown into...
Is that a house? Right there, that square?
The air, and then broke apart.
There wasn't anybody in there, was there?
And bolted to the foundation. The house was lifted completely off of the foundation.
Oh my God. First off, you know, I've seen the tornadoes go through a house and like, you know, just cave it in and, you know, slowly pick stuff up and rip it apart, even like some of the stronger tornadoes. But that's an entire house just being lifted off its frame and launched.
Thrown into the air and then broke apart. The tornado was even strong enough to rip some sill plates and snap off bolts that supported them. Trees were also debarked here and multiple cars were thrown lengths of distances.
Yo, what's those, what's that set of tires there up front? What's that too? Is that one of them little bug cars? Dude, that's a lot of damage. It's debarking trees, man. That takes a lot of force.
One car was tossed over 100 meters away, and another was tossed onto a neighbor's roof. The tornado lingered over this portion of Elie for roughly 4 minutes before it moved south and exited town.
Imagine like you're hiding in your house and just... You're bunkered in, the next thing you know, like a Corvette lands beside of you. You're like, Jesus. Look, no one was hurt from my understanding so far, so I can laugh a little bit. I'll feel bad if somebody got hurt, though.
The tornado initially traveled south out of town before doing another
It did another 360
degree loop and then making one last unpredictable turn to the southwest and then soon dissipating. The tornado was on the ground for roughly 35 minutes,
Oh, sorry.
but only tracked for 3.7 miles, and at its max width was roughly 150 yards.
It was on the ground for 35 minutes, but only moved a little over 3.5 miles.
The tornado had one of the wildest tracks of all time, going almost every direction at some point during its life and performing 3 separate 360-degree loops. Remarkably, nobody was killed or even injured as a result of this tornado.
That's what we like to hear, baby. Nobody got it. No injuries, no deaths. That's the way we like it. Obviously, some homes got destroyed. I hate that, but you can rebuild a home. We can rebuild homes. I'm just glad no one was hurt.
Many folks in Elie were not in town when the tornado hit, and the ones that were well prepared for this situation, hence why nobody was injured or killed.
Elie. I'll say it right one more time. Elie. Elie.
Following day, Environment Canada sent out a storm damage survey team from the Prairie and Arctic Storm Prediction Center to assess the damage caused by the tornado. Earlier that same year, the United States implemented the Enhanced Fujita Scale, which was a new and improved version of the original Fujita Scale. Canada, however, would not adopt this new scale until 2013, so this tornado would be rated using the original Fujita Scale. The team found the first instance of damage that could be rated was at the location of the town's flour mill. At this location, the team found evidence of F2 damage. Further on, the team found that the tornado weakened to F0 intensity before entering town. With the 4 affected buildings in town, surveyors found at least F4 damage with one house that was swept away completely with only the foundation remaining. Surveyors noted at the time that this could be F5 damage, but they were concerned with the extreme slow speed of the tornado. This would allow the tornado to produce much more and worse damage than if it were moving at a normal speed.
Well, not only was it moving slow, but it also did like a 360 and hit town again. So it was moving slow, and that area got hit twice.
Even though the damage at this one location supported F5 intensity, surveyors were convinced that this was because of the extreme slow forward speed of the tornado, so they issued an F4 rating. The initial F4...
But hold on. It also picked that house up off the frame and launched it. We can't forget that. That's insane. I feel like that's obviously a lot stronger than an F2, right? Because it's not like we're dealing with a mobile home. Like, this was a decently, at least a decently built home with a frame bolted to the ground. And it was lifted up off that, spun around, then launched and destroyed. We got to keep that in mind.
4 rating would last a few months until September of 2007. During that month, the Weather Service received notice of a video that was taken by a local that documented the tornado destroying the 4 southwest homes in the corner of Elie. After viewing the video, the Weather Service noticed something.
Yeah, this is the video right here again.
A shocking conclusion. In the Weather Service,
that's where there's the house.
To a shocking conclusion. In the short video, you can see the tornado pick up, throw, and rip apart a full house in the air. This was all done in the span of just a few seconds, proving that the extreme damage to the houses was not done slowly over the span of a few minutes because of the slow forward speed of the tornado. After seeing this video, the Weather Service determined that there was now enough evidence to upgrade this tornado to F5, and the upgrade was done formally on September 18, 2007. Afterwards, the survey team even mentioned that the damage done at this location would have qualified for EF5 intensity had Canada been using the EF scale at the time, showing how truly powerful this tornado was. The Elie, Manitoba tornado
was a small tornado, but strong,
facets, including its look visually, how fast it was moving, and the bizarre path that it took. When you envision what a F5 or EF5 tornado looks like, you expect a huge tornado that makes you cringe with fear, which is certainly not what the Elie tornado looked like, with a max width of only.
Yo, is this the Elie tornado? Dude, that is like one of the most photogenic tornadoes I've seen so far. The only one being better would have been the Columbus, Nebraska one. You know, Andy, get your pants on. You know, it's or Susan, where's my pants? I'm sorry. Susan, where's my pants? That's the only footage I've seen better than, with, you know, photogenic wise, you know, the tornado. That's a wild looking tornado, and I would never imagine it being an EF5 either.
About 150 yards. Another typical characteristics of strong tornadoes is that they're relatively fast moving, which once again the Elie tornado does not fit into that category, as it had a top speed of only 10 miles per hour. Finally, the path that this tornado took was one of the least predictable and most bizarre that any tornado has ever taken, with the tornado doing 3 separate loops.
Only 10
and
miles
traveling
per
in
hour.
almost every cardinal direction at some point in its life. All of these very unique features make the Elie, Manitoba tornado 2007 one of the most unique and interesting tornadoes of all time. And that's going to wrap it up for this video. I hope you guys learned something, and thank you so much.
All right, dude. Hey, Elie, whatever. I'm calling you Elie just because I know it's going to make you angry. I'm glad no one was hurt. That's awesome, dude. That's what we like to hear. A lot of people wasn't in town. The people that was there were prepared, and that's just the way we like it. That's good news. And is this really Canada's only F5 tornado? If so, that's crazy. And a good thing, right? I mean, I guess in order to have F5 tornadoes, it's had to have went through populated areas and caused that damage. So, you know, it's kind of good thing not to have F5 tornadoes, right? Slow moving, 10 miles per hour. That is insanely slow. I didn't know they could even move that slow. And the path it was taking, like it did three 360s. And what's crazy about it, 2 of those happened in an area to do damage. So you had the flour mill. It did a 360 on top of it. And then the south side of town had the 4 homes it hit. It did another 360 to hit the houses twice. But small, only 150 yards wide. Once again, that's just not, like the video said, that's not what I imagine a powerful tornado. Like, I imagine, you know, at least half a mile wide, if not more. El Reno style, 2.6 miles wide. But yeah, that's crazy that a tornado, even though it's that small, can still be that powerful. I kind of knew something was up whenever, you know, I found out that was a house. Like it lifted a house up off the frame and whirled it around like that. Like that takes an unbelievable amount of strength. I mean, I feel like automatically if that happened to a, you know, a well-built home, it's a minimum of EF4. Have to be. And then you could also take a little observation, you know, of looking around. You know, you have debarked trees that have been completely splintered in half, and start to assume that, you know, you got a rather, at minimum, rather powerful tornado on your hands. Once again, shout out to my boy Wombo Combo. I'm not exactly, I'm going to try to get this one out quick from my boy here soon. We got a few more videos I got to record today, so get used to the black shirt. I know a lot of people have made some recommendations, so we're going to try to get to that. And yeah, it's going to be fun, man. Alright, guys, I am Cheap. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And we'll catch you in the next one.